Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 700 Club. President-elect Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants to make the economy great again by meeting with the leaders of America's top technology companies. How big are those businesses? Well, put together, they're worth more than $3 trillion. Trump wants to help companies grow again and bring back jobs. And he's ready to take dramatic steps to do that once he takes office. Heather Sells has the story.
They were some of his most outspoken opponents during the campaign, but Donald Trump met with heavyweight tech leaders from Silicon Valley. They included the heads of Amazon, Intel, IBM, and Microsoft. He promised fair trade deals that will allow their companies to trade across borders and an open door at the White House.
We're going to be there for you, and you'll call my people, you'll call me. It doesn't make any difference. We have no formal chain of command around here.
Other prominent themes at the meeting: creating jobs, cutting taxes, and rolling back rules that interfere with business abroad. Those priorities are driving the president-elect's agenda, and his cabinet picks reflect them. Rick Perry, Trump's nominee for Energy Secretary, is vowing to cut regulations on the energy industry. And Scott Pruitt, the nominee for head of the Environmental Protection Agency, is expected to roll them back as well. Plus, Exxon CEO Rex Tillerson, Trump's choice for Secretary of State, will undoubtedly keep U.S. business interests high on his radar as he shapes foreign policy with international friends and foes. On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve provided a strong indicator that it believes the economy is moving in the right direction. It hiked its key interest rate by 0.25%.
The economy is proven to be remarkably resilient, so it is a vote of confidence.
But some analysts say that despite its mildly positive outlook, the Fed still expects the slow growth of recent years to continue in the future and isn't taking into account the potential that Trump's policies could lead to a stronger economy. Wall Street is clearly happy with the president-elect. Just since Election Day, the so-called Trump rally has taken stocks up sharply, around 9%, with the Dow Industrials closing in on the historic 20,000 level. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Well, thank you, Heather. Trump's victory in the presidential election this year was one of the greatest political stories in American history. But despite his unprecedented success, the media hasn't been fair to him. John Jessup has that.
That's right, Pat. If you listen to cable news and other major media outlets, you'd think President-elect Trump is making major mistakes and causing one controversy after another in this transition process. But as David Brody explains, those claims seem to be way off the mark.
Trump transition in turmoil. The president-elect's team plagued by infighting.
Some are describing it as chaos right now within Donald Trump's transition team.
Disarray, turmoil.
Each day seems to be an endless parade of liberal gobbledygook against Team Trump.
They are utterly, at this moment, totally, completely, abjectly unprepared to take over running the government.
Transition headlines range from phrases like rocky start to state of disarray or just plain old real panic. But what's the truth? It turns out Trump's progress is right on par with the 2008 Obama transition when it comes to naming members of his incoming administration.
How do you separate the fact from fiction here as it relates to how much might be in turmoil, how much might not be? What's the media doing here exactly?
Well, the press declared Donald Trump's transition to be in turmoil about the third day in, which was a little premature and a little bit silly. Is there a different media standard when it comes to covering Donald Trump?
Howard Kurtz covers mainstream media tactics for Fox News and says Trump's penchant of playing to the cameras doesn't help him.
It's all very public. A lot of this used to be done, typically, behind closed doors. There would be leaks and speculation, but this is kind of like The Apprentice. And so I think that may give more of a sense of chaos than is really fair.
When it comes to more than fair, the media gave Barack Obama a rosy reception after his 2008 election. You'd see headlines like Mr. Fix-It going to Washington or Obama working to calm volatile market. The fawning by the major networks seemed pretty obvious.
Some would say it's a team of rivals a la President Lincoln, or is a better comparison a team of geniuses?
We have not seen this kind of combination of star power and brain power.
Rich Noyes is with the Media Research Center.
it's very night and day in terms of the media coverage. But if you look at the country was split about 50-50 on Obama's election. It's split about 50-50 on Trump's election. But the media were reflecting the majority sentiment in 2008, and now they're rebelling against it in 2016.
8 years ago, I started what I call the Obama suck-up watch, because much of the press was either in the tank for Barack Obama as a candidate, or at the very least, he got the most favorable treatment I have seen in my lifetime, somebody running for the White House.
The way the media has treated Trump and Obama cabinet picks makes the point.
When Obama would appoint people who were very liberal, they got sort of straightforward profiles about their accomplishments. With President-elect Trump, you have an underlying sense of, wow, he's picking people without much government experience, people who are opposed to the mission of these agencies. That's why we have elections.
The public is definitely noticing the unfair treatment. The latest Pew Research survey shows 38% give the mainstream media a failing grade. Just 22% give the press an A or a B for their coverage. The good news for Trump, though, he's pretty good at sidestepping the media.
Trump increasingly doesn't need the mainstream media as much as past presidents do. Part of that's technological. He can broadcast to people on Twitter and Facebook. He can put videos online. I don't think he can completely divorce himself from the mainstream press, but he certainly has ways of going around us.
And we're sure to see that play out the next 4 years. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, David. Pat, back to you.
Well, nothing succeeds like success, and I think the way to shut these yammering leftists up is to just bring forth policies that the American people love instead of the mess that we have inherited from 8 years of Obama. Well, our planet may be in for some difficult days, according to some scientists, and John has that story.
That's right, Pat. Earth isn't prepared for a deadly danger from outer space, a NASA scientist warned this week, saying that the world doesn't have a defense for an impact from an asteroid or a comet. Joseph Newth, a researcher at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, points out most people have focused on asteroids, not comets. But according to Space.com, he says a comet pretty much comes out of nowhere and they can hit the Earth much harder and faster. He's proposed some possible solutions, like an interceptor carrying a nuclear bomb to deflect a comet, but that could be costly. NASA hasn't made such a request, and Pat, Congress would have to approve it.
Well, I wrote a book about that, and one of the things is a president who vetoed a spending measure to break off an asteroid. Then when the asteroid hits, the president commits suicide. So that was part of my book. So I don't know if any of these guys in Washington commit suicide, but we are very vulnerable. You know, there are millions of those little rocks running around in space, and the comets are just out of nowhere. They're full of ice, and when they hit hard.